This is the Bar Steward's Enquiry.
Right? You're talking absolute rubbish. Absolute rubbish.
In what way?
You were an underachiever in life. I saved your bacon one time. You were gone.
You handled that well. I couldn't save you. But you did the right thing.
But that's why you don't know anything about racing, John.
I didn't say I do.
Right?
I'm saying that...
What have you contributed to racing? You're one of these take-out merchants. Take out all you can.
Hello, a big one. Welcome to the Bar Steward's Enquiry. It's a wet weekend for the old Cambridgeshire meeting, but we're going to give it our best shot. And of course, we bring some crack judges in on this show, of course. Nats King winners galore in Andy Richmond, John Ling, Nick Davis. Good evening, chaps.
Good evening.
Evening. Hello, everyone.
Yep, enthusiasm personified from my crack guests this week. Crack might be another word, I think, for something else.
Should be on crack.
Should be this weekend. It was tipping point for me this afternoon, but nevertheless, I'm sure there'll be better bets to be had over the next couple of days. So coming on to Friday then, we've got the 4 televised races at HQ. Seems to be rather Fillies based over the next couple of days, which should please Nick. The 150 there is the EBF Rosemary Stakes, a listed affair where we've got Spiritual as market leader. And John, coming to you first, because I like your note on the 17th of April for Spiritual. It said, Spiritual is clearly a cunt. She had more gear on than Hannibal Lecter and found nothing when asked. So it won't be pull up the drawbridge tomorrow, maybe.
You wouldn't think so, would you? I thought there was like 4 at the head of the ratings here. I mean, Spiritual normally sports a hood. They discarded that last time. That proves she's still a nut bar because she went toe-free. Rollick is 6th in the Guineas, and getting her there from that maiden win at the Craven has probably buzzed her up beyond repair. Sirona away from the Kingsley House death camp now, but never wins. And then you've got Doom that achieved an inflated rating at the Curragh when ridden handy. I honestly couldn't think about having a bet in this. I think they're just trial, really.
I love the start. It's a
good start, isn't it?
You know, like when other shows do like clips and captions of John, like on the Montrose, I think these are just vile. Only on this show, chaps. Only on this show. Okay, John, thanks for your input there. Andy?
I don't think I can add much more to John's lack of enthusiasm because mine's probably similar, to be honest with you. Looking at the ground today there and the amount of rain they're getting, because it's absolutely thumping it down now on my telly box here. The ground's only going to get softer because they're bound to have, the water table's bound to be massively high there. I do think that there could be a bit of a golden highway towards the old stand side because it generally is developed here. The one I thought you might give a bit of enthusiasm to this, a little bit of a chance. It was Fair Point, who at least has some form on soft ground, been a consistent sort, seen to good effect from the front last time at Ascot, made all for 2 wins. She does step up in grade, but she'll handle the ground. Beckett Yard's in good form. Thought she was a little bit overpriced without going bonkers mad in a race where, as John said, I wouldn't trust Sirona away from the death camp. Spiritual, didn't really like that either. Rollicker, no. Doom's been out of form. 3-year-olds have got a good record in this. They've won the last 4 run-ins and they're 7 from 58 overall. So that's a little bit of a tick. I suppose the only thing you would say with Sirona is that the jockey booking does take the eye with Ryan Moore riding for David Manussia. He doesn't do that too often. He's actually 6 from 19 for a winners above expected figure of 3.85 and an 18-point profit. So if you want to back Sirona, that's the thing to hang on to. But in a race where I don't have too much more to say, Fair Point, if you really wanted to have a bet, you might get the run of the race.
Yeah, sort of agree with you there. Fair Point, if guns ahead would be a bet. I certainly wouldn't be betting in it. But Sirona...
So you've got less question marks than the rest of them, let's put it that way.
Yeah, like Sirona last time, again, run a blinder really, because she was drawn wide at Deauville round the bend and had to use a bit too much pep, but she still found a way to get beat. It's still a fair effort. And I think with Ryan Moore in the saddle, I think if we talk about guns to heads, if someone says, what do you want to play on? like 3 peg market Serona because she's got enough class to just get through this and run a sort of 105 sort of race, which is good enough, I think, to be in the 3 year. So you'd be looking about 1.6 a place in 3 pegs. Do we need to back Fillies in heavy ground, Nick, at 1.6 to place?
Yeah, my enthusiasm for this race is it knows no bounds. Spiritual here. She probably like the ground, but the two clunks in her career have come here, and I'm always suspicious of. I'm going to give 1 clunk at Newmarket, 2 clunks at Newmarket. Might not like it. Will Rollicker run in this ground? I don't think you'll be seeing it tomorrow. That's a withdrawal.
Well, that's it. Yeah, could be a few non-runners.
Doom won in France on very soft ground, but is held. No, I should be cooking or something like that when this is on.
Barnsley chop. 2:25 then. We'll move on quickly, as none of us have got a solid opinion in that. But that's better than doing your brains. Time Lock heads the market at 2-1, 9-4 for the Dubai Stakes, over a mile and a half. I think an overrated filly that John highlighted back in the spring when she made a reappearance and she was favourite. And John, I remember you saying she was totally flattered by the win that she had with the strong pace. Do you remember?
Yeah, I think it was in this last year, actually, wasn't it?
She won this last year.
Yeah, it was this race. So they went absolutely berserker on the front end, and you just pick the bits up. And for some reason, she goes up about £8, which was ridiculous. And it's looked ridiculous all season.
Mistral Star, I shall add, has been withdrawn on 2 or 3 occasions on soft ground as excuse as the ground. So I could see Mistral Star being a non-runner tomorrow.
Divina Grace won't probably run in this ground, will it?
Yeah, Divina Grace probably, like you wouldn't have said. By the time we've done this preview, we could look fulls because we don't know what.
Well, the only way to avoid looking fulls with this race is just back the German Panzer, isn't it? Really,
which is a Sea of Roses.
Of course.
This is what I'm coming on to, John. I thought that again, if they all stand, which I'm pretty sure they won't, there's a lot of ground outs for a few of these. Again, Sea of Roses in the place market, I thought I'm like boycott this weekend. I'm only hitting that half tracker for 4. That's it.
I thought you were going to say you were going to go in the bathroom and knock fuck out the producer.
Oh, God almighty. All right, then, Chris Tavery. I'll be Chris Tavery this weekend. And I'm thinking that I think that's the punter tactic. This is not the weekend to go all out. And again, the place market, I think, is the place to be for Sea of Roses. There's not going to be 3 fillies beating her on a favoured ground. There's just not. It's just not going to happen. So that's where I'd be on the race. I'll come to you, Andy, to see if you could offer anything better.
No, because I'd be with Sea of Roses. Because if you look through all these, and I did my due process and ran all the proper going figures on Proform, where you can see all the going allowances, and certainly Sea of Roses came up the best there. And she got a very willing attitude. It was her first win since a 2-year-old day last time out, but she went from the front. She could get the run of this. And if you watch the race in there today, I don't see the ground's going to change that much. It does seem to be the place to be, is to be up the front end. And the only one I thought might just be worth a little bit of a punt was this comic book, who is completely unexposed. And if you watch the race at Longchamp last time out, she was well positioned, but I don't think she got an awful lot of luck in the closing stages. She got denied a run. I know she's got a bit to find, but as you say, none of these are actually, they're not world beaters, are they? And I share John's trepidation about Time Lock. I'm not particularly keen on that one. Place of Safety is very lightly raced. Should progress, but I say, like you, Lee, Sea of Roses looks the one for me. You might want to play in the place markers if you just want to have a little bit of a punt. Then Comic Book to improve.
That's a good shout with Comic Book, actually.
Just looks overpriced. I mean, there's
Yeah.
no way. 20. I saw 20s this afternoon. I'm like, there's no way that goes well. Okay, you could have some Rule 4s. There's no way that's going off at 20s.
Yeah, it's funny because I watched the Deauville race after it had run on the penultimate. I haven't watched the Longchamp race. That's clumsy of me. She actually did amazing because she stumbled at the start at Deauville the time before in a Group 3. and ran amazing. Of course, I should have watched the Longchamp race, and obviously you're taken by it. Yeah, that's probably a good sighter for people at big odds, I think, comic book, because I did like her at Deauville, so she's obviously a filly going the right way.
Get the jockey upgrade as well. Shane Foley over Hully Doyle.
Indeed, yeah, for sure. Nick?
Like you lot, I didn't like Time Lock. That's probably my biggest opinion on the race. I mean, the Gosden one on the dam side. There's some hope of this acting on Harvey Pay. That's one on soft, and Night of Thunders can go on it. Do I really want to bet Fillies on heavy ground in fucking September? No.
Fillies. Sure under it.
No.
I've got an opinion on the Cheveley Park.
Good stuff. I want to hear that later on. We come back to the sort of summary of this race, and it's Sia Rosa's. Andy's mentioned comic book, and I think them at the prices, why not? It's square prices at the moment before any withdrawals, 30-2, and around 16s, 18s for comic book, although I can see now that's under pressure as we record comic book. You can get 18s with Denise, but it's 12s, you can get a bit of 14, so we'll see how that plays out. 3 o'clock, this is the Rockfel Stakes tomorrow. Me and John and the producer actually can do a bit of a Chris Poll here, because we're all shitting ourselves with all this rain, because we're not sure that it suits Formal in terms of, I know that she won on soft ground at Leicester last time, but we think she's better on quicker. But John, yourself, and especially the producer, who's absolutely is sweaty, she's had £25 each way at 25s, John, Formal, for the Rockfel. Obviously, you won't tell me your stake because you like that, but you're on at 25, I take it.
Yeah.
Now, if this had been good ground, I'd have been saying that Formal is an absolute certainty to win the Rockfel. Information that I've had from the horse's mouth, really, not the Baron, a good person there. This absolutely destroyed a 90 rated older horse in a gallop. It went absolutely miles clear, which is why she's at the top of the market and why she's probably been back tonight. Whether the Baron decides to pull her out after this deluge, we're probably going to get Newmarket overnight and into the morning, because the Baron will possibly want to. But then again, he's retiring. He might think, fuck it, John.
I think anybody else in Newmarket that was retiring probably would say, fuck it. Not him.
No. Which means we could be sat on
some great value that's worth fuck all.
Yeah. If she doesn't take after her dam, she's all right. Voracious liked it faster, didn't she?
Yeah, she did. I think she won on soft, Nick, but she was definitely better on quicker.
As a rule of thumb, Nick, you know yourself, and I know there's like good fillies or good colts that go on soft ground that have got turner foots, but in general, if you've got a good turner foot, you don't want a bog. That's the same for any human being or equine beast. If you've got a good change of pace, last thing you want to be doing is running on a bog, because it's like that, it just neutralizes it. You've got one burst and then that's it. And it's like, right, that's your burst. But you've got to see it out to line. And
I've got a good change of pace, Lee. I can go from real steady to slow.
I had a horse like that, yeah. Clarence Beaks, he could get to 34 mile an hour on gallops. That was about it. And then he went down to 33 and 32 and 31. Yeah, and he was well named in Clarence Beak off of Trading Places, of course, the absolute bastard. Yeah, if anything, I'm good at naming horses. That's about it. I think Formal, we're all praying, but we've got doubts on the ground. The form book says she's won on soft, but it was, look, Orchid missed the break. A shit novice at Leicester, so after that. So
I think anybody looking for him back could do a bit worse than have a look at Duty first. Parallels with last year's winner, Carla's Way, actually. Tried to lead in the Prestige at Goodwood on bad ground, just got claimed in the last furlong, and comes here off the back of that. Fair enough level of form, Group 3 race, beating 1 3/4 on soft. I think that's as good as anything on offer on soft.
Well, it's the very race that Stout withdrew Formal.
Yeah.
She was in the Supreme and Stout withdrew her because of the ground, so that might be a clue. Andy, have you any thoughts on this?
Certainly can't give you any trumpets because I'm not on at 25s, but
no.
That's a big bet for the producer.
25 each way for the producer is like, that's just monstrous. Like,
that must have been the housekeeping money.
Have you seen what they consume in a week, Andy?
Well,
Housekeeping, man. That's housekeeping from 9 a.m. till 12.
Yeah,
especially,
lobster for fucking morning, afternoon tea.
especially if you're in Marks all the time buying all that pate. Yeah.
Oh, I'll tell you what, another recommendation here.
Oh, here we go. Yeah.
The producer came back with a lovely lobster bisque the other day
Oh.
from Marks. Very much enjoyed
yeah.
that. Crusty bread and butter, lobster
Very nice.
bisque. And we're coming to that time of year where we're back to soups, guys. This is it. That's a winner, the lobster bisque from
I like
M&S.
that in the sauce in a fish pie, you know.
Do you know what? You could use that, the soup itself. You could probably have half in a mug and a bit of bread and butter or whatever. Then you could use the other half. If you cooked a fish dish or something like that, it'd be absolutely superb as a sauce.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another bar steward's top tip. Andy, carry on.
It's really not a race I have a particularly strong opinion on. I have been impressed by Formal, but the ground, as you say, not particularly sure. John's recommendation of Duty First, yes, I can see where he's coming from. You've got a couple of O'Brien horses in here. Thought Bubbling was given a shit ride last time out, to be honest with you. The horse didn't help, but
yeah, I bet it. I was sick.
Although the drift sort of, you thought, that was it. I think you get a better ride. I thought Bubbling. I quite liked. I liked her previous two runs, and that was just put me off. I probably won't play in the race, so it'd be remiss of me to tip anything in the race because I'm quite happy to sit here and watch and hope that you get a run out of Formal for your 25-1.
Cheers, boss. Nick, anything to add?
I would just be about waking up and waiting for the 15th of the next race.
So you've had lunch during the sort of the 150 and 2. You're eating lunch during the 225. You've had a snooze during the 3 o'clock. You've set your alarm. And then on comes
some axes for some of that lobster bisque.
You might do, actually. The 3:35 coming up then is the Joel's. That's over a mile. And the favourite, do you know they can't make their mind up in this? It's literally wide open for a 6-runner affair. It's rare you'll see sort of 3-1, 7-2 about a market leader, but that's what we've got.
Will they run lead artist?
No.
I don't think it goes on it, does it, John?
No.
It was a non-runner due to the ground at Goodwood on the 24th of August. It was given a soft then.
Yeah, that was when he really cocked up. He should have been at York with him anyway.
The 3 soft ground horses are Ice Max, Poker Face, and Dancing Gemini. So that's the sort of list I think you can. If you're betting in the race, I think that's your only choices.
The best bit of soft ground form over a mile, you have to go back. It's Dancing Gemini, isn't it? Really, in the French one, French 2000. And on that basis, you might want to give him a chance. But has he been totally mucked up by all these distances?
John's notes, 2nd of August, not finishing his races because Teal's ripping the guts out of him and needs a change of yard. John.
Yes, I still think that.
But you think, though, back on soft...
If there's going to be a revival to tomorrow's the day, isn't it, really? I mean...
Yeah, because obviously a quick ground against lead artist last time. It just might be a soft ground horse because his best performances have come with a lot of cut where he's slooshed through the race, and maybe that's it. Maybe he is just a soft ground horse. And
you'd like to see a bit more confidence in him in the betting, though, with the conditions as they are, wouldn't you?
I think
it's fairly easy to back since they've opened up on this.
On Betfair is the outsider of the entire field.
Which would suggest Tails ripped the guts out of him.
Yes,
so who's right about that then?
Yeah.
Well, that's it. Owned by Fish Dance Limited, so obviously he does want soft ground with a owner group like that. Andy.
Well, I sort of came to the same conclusion as you sort of opened up with there's 3 horses with bits of soft ground form. You've got Poker Face, Ice Max, and Dancing Gemini. On John's excellent advice, I wouldn't be backing Dancing Gemini because I do think he has had the balls kicked out of him, basically. Poorly trained, to be honest with you. Poker Face, he needs to get back to his best, and he could possibly do so here. I just want to be with Ice Max, I think. He's got loads of form on soft, heavy ground. He beat Poker Face in a Group 2, over a mile on soft at Goodwood. Okay, Poker Face is a bit better off at the weights, but I think, you can throw weights out the window in ground like this, can't you?
Yeah.
I thought if you get 9 to 2, 5 to 1, Ice Max would be the one for me. I don't really like Lead Artist. I don't think it'll run. Task Force, not really for me. Prague is the unknown quantity, basically. He was a little bit unlucky. Was it Haydock last time out? Wasn't he? Got beaten half a length by Holloway Boy in a Group 3.
Should have won.
He had to wait for a run for a bit there, and probably on more than one occasion. So he could be the fly in the ointment, but you don't know if he goes on the ground. And I think I'd always rather take the one that goes on the ground than the one that you're thinking might go on the ground, but probably has slightly better form. So Ice Max with Peters and Lee on board.
Can't argue with that at all. A tricky race, though, very tricky. And like you said, Lead Artist possibly is a doubtful runner there. But again, as we get towards the end of the season, sometimes they don't bother and they just have a go anyway. But we'll see how the land lies there. Right, for day one, chaps, have we got any lucky 15 material?
Lobster Beast.
Lobster Beast. Yeah. The M&S Lobster Beast.
I think I've got one in the 410, which isn't on the telly.
Okay, yeah, we can do that.
And that's Paul Cole's Seaplane, who I thought did a marvellous job last time on soft ground at Ascot over 7, trying to lead all the way. We know it's not the best thing to try and do at Ascot. There was only Carla Lagoon actually nailed him inside the last furlong, beat him a neck. Prior to that, he was all set to go to the Chesham as a maiden, so obviously something went wrong prior to the Chesham. He had some time off, so you can assume that will have put an edge on him. I say they're making Secret Theory a Godolphin debutant favourite in this. To me, that's going to have to run to about 95 to beat this, and will probably concede track position, which I think could be crucial tomorrow. A reasonably high drawing 9, so near side bias will have been established by then. If Rosa wants to come near side, he should be able to. I think this is a tidy sort of bet around 7 to 2.
Andy runner, and there is a tailwind tomorrow at Newmarket.
Yeah.
So again, you're in the right place, John. They'll go forward. That's what they do.
I think there's points up for grabs here anyway. You know what I mean? I would imagine you can get about 6 to 4 in run if you want to get out. I would have thought.
After we listen to Saturdays, then consider that if we need to add it in to what we're going to look at Saturday into the final lucky 15. I think for folks listening on this pod. So right, that's Friday more or less done with. I think.
Lee, Saturday, is there any wind form?
Saturday's less. It's quite raucous tomorrow. It's a north-northwest, which is about 35% tailwind. It's not direct behind, but it's definitely helping them. So 19 is quite significant tomorrow. Saturday, we're dropping down to about a 9 with a more of a direct tail. So it's a lesser wind Saturday, but it is directly behind them on the Saturday. I would stress to punters, like Andy mentioned it earlier on, you're probably going to be in the van, as so to speak, rather than held up out the back. I think.
If you watch today's racing back, Lee, and I just managed to glance the last race as well. Terry's Royal actually managed to keep straight this time instead of Megan being on it and letting it drift to the centre of town more. And it definitely looked like, from then you're probably better off
on the front end, so to
on
speak.
the rail, yeah.
Obviously, that might not apply in the Cambridgeshire where they can open up a bit too far from home, but we'll see on that one on Saturday. Right, coming on to Saturday, and of course, the Cambridgeshire. That's the jewel in the crown, the finish of Saturday's cards. Some would argue and say, what about the Group 1s? We all love the Cambridgeshire, really. You'd love a Cambridgeshire winner over a Group 1 winner earlier on because you're going to get better paid. But we start off with the 115. It's another Fillies race at Nursery Handicap over 7 furlongs. I'm sure they do it for Nick. He loves this kind of thing. He gets off on it. So, Nick, I'm starting you off on the Fillies Nursery.
Right, I fancy Nana. I know she seems to be one of these tough things that keep going through the season, improving, goes from the front, goes on soft. What's not to like?
Yeah, can't argue any of that, really. I love Ghost Run, right, in this. But the problem is, even though it's pivotal on the dam side, and there was sort of a little bit of dig at Doncaster, maybe not as much as we thought, she's by Kamika. And Kamika, although limited stats so far, has proven better on better ground. And if you consider Kamiko is by Kitten's Joy, there's a bit of a US influence there. I'm not certain that Ghost Run will be suited by conditions tomorrow. Could be wrong on that, but although I like her, one of my best bets on Saturday goes in the Harry Charlton runner, Magic Love. I like her. Physically, I like her. I was sick that I didn't bet her on handicap debut because I'd earmarked to do so, but I thought Thirsk was the wrong option. I thought 6 at Thirsk, it's not very tested, and I thought 6 was a minimum for her. Obviously, they're better. They knew what they'd got. They're better well. I don't think she knew what she was doing because it's first time she's been off. She was clueless in front. She found plenty in the closing stages. She will improve massively for 7. They will go handy. So again, that's a positive. And I think if you can get, I think it's 12 to 1 with Denise. I don't know if that's still there, but that's just silly. 8 to 1, 15 to 2. I think you can get in places. That's massive. She's a good filly. Star Spangled Banners going soft ground. Glen Eagles on the dam sire. I've got no fears about the ground. I've seen her action. No problem. So Magic Love for me for the Harry Charlton team is one of my better bets of the weekend. John.
No.
I like that. I like it. It's succinct and to the point. A 2-year-old Nursery, bad ground, get it.
I was waiting on a David O'Meara horse that needed it to stay dry, so my hopes of a bet in that race evaporated sometime yesterday morning.
Right, fair point. So, Nick likes Nana. I like Magic Love. What do you like, Andy?
Nana.
Ooh.
For the reasons that Nick has given, really. I did like one other in the race. I just don't like the draw. And it's the Eve Johnson Hortonhow horse with Buick on board, Geo. I think she is potentially very well handicapped off 76, but I don't like that draw in stall 4. Need to have a look at tomorrow's racing, possibly look at her. And the other one, there was one other that I thought was just a silly price, really. She's only run badly once, and it's a race that just didn't work out. It was Beauty Nation, far better than last time out. And the first 2 runs, you could certainly back her in this off. So if she was sort of, 16s I saw knocking around. If she was that price, I wouldn't let her go at that. But I thought Nana, for the reasons that Nick gave, really, she's just one of these tough horses that if it comes to a bit of attitude and guts, she might just outgut some of these from a decent draw from the front. Looks an archetypal 2-year-old. Don't think there's not an awful lot. I think if she was in a different stable, she might be a little bit shorter.
Fair play. Only thing I'd say about the draw, what I did notice in one of the Stain races, Wonder Kid was tight to the far rail, and that seemed to just bound. Obviously, it went in the ground and conditions. I'd like to ask you guys on this. Say you've got an horse running on Saturday. By the time we get to Saturday, I'd want to be on either rail. Nick, would you agree with that?
Yeah, and there is a thing to back this up in the Cambridgeshire. There's been a couple of Cambridgeshires run on soft ground, and they have been both rails they've been up against. But if it's really good ground, I think you really want to be high. But on this, it can equal it up a bit.
It's interesting. So I think they could be either rail because if you notice today, they seem to come down the centre a lot. So they're chewing that up, and they'll chew it up again probably tomorrow. I think the last day, Saturday, I think you'll see like either rail being very strong because that's the probably least raced of the course over the 3 days. So I think that could be an angle for punters to look at. Andy, your thoughts?
I'd probably want to be on either rail. I'd still favour, well, some stats here on the Cambridge. I think it's, was it 8 of the last 10 winners have been drawn 21 plus.
Yeah.
So I would favour those drawn high. But as Nick said, if you could get right on that far rail, i.e. the very, very, very low.
It's pretty unusual. This is the first Cambridge we've had for years on soft ground.
Yeah, I haven't had one for a while. So I'd sort of be tempering my enthusiasm for those drawn, not temporary, drawn really high, but I wouldn't rule out those drawn really low. But that it took them a while to work out today to come over to the near side. As you say, that staying race, they did stay far side, but I think it's just too far for them to come across, basically.
Well, if you watched the Cambridgeshire back last year, the centre group, there was about 8 or 9 from memory. And the centre group was her in the end.
Yeah, they were miles behind, weren't they?
Yeah. I put a few in my tracker on the back of that because I just thought you had absolutely no chance. It seemed to be, obviously, stand side prevailed, but far side were well in it. It was just stand side just prevailed. But like Nick says, I wonder if this softer ground just might swing the tide a little bit towards that far side. We'll come on to the Cambridgeshire in a bit, of course. So Nick's Nana, Andy's Nana, I am Magic Love, and John is letting the dog out. So
It's down Mark's getting the lobster bee skin.
that's the lobster beak race. That has some sourdough, sourdough and best butter, John. 150 Newmarket is the Juddmonte Royal Lodge, a race that I always like to back the winner of. I do like this race. I just do. There's some races people like to back a winner of, and I do like a Royal Lodge. I liked it better at Ascot, but that's where we are. I think Luther is a very worthy favourite. I think the price is very generous. This horse is proven, the form's strong. The second to New Century at Salisbury, despite getting the worst of the rides, really, like New Century made all, Luther sat last, and yet New Century's come out and beat Al Qudra and the Grade 1 at Woodbine since to frank the form. So there's nothing not to like about Luther. I'd be all over Wimbledon Hawkeye on quicker ground, but as I've mentioned, Kamiko, softer ground, the damn side is See the Stars. I'm all over the Aiken form. I think it's strong form. However, I cannot be with Wimbledon Hawkeye on this kind of ground.
That form got another boost today, didn't it? The
Yes.
Aiken form with the Waco Kid.
Yes, the Waco Kid, exactly.
Yeah.
And we've said on this podcast how strong the Aiken form we feel is. However, we can't stop connections where they decide to run their horses. And the Gredleys will probably run this, and I wouldn't, because it's a Kamiko See the Stars mare. It's a no from me at that price. So I'd have to be with Luther. John?
I'm not entirely convinced Luther wants this ground either.
Really?
And and the one for me was the Sotat Yellow.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
More design, who caught the eye on debut and then converted, unlike a lot of main horses, actually converted to a win second time up. Had a bit of scope and a bit of length about it, this horse. I quite liked it physically. And I think the fact that soft ground won't be a problem, I think 21's overpriced and 7 runner failed.
John, don't you think that race it won by default? Because do you remember I was saying to you a lot, this is the only one that'll act on the ground.
Yeah.
I think maybe the same with Saturday. I'm not convinced about any of these on the ground apart from this one. I mean, if this had been fast ground, I'd have been all over Angelo Buonarroti, to be honest.
What about Aiden's horse? Aiden's one goes on the soft, doesn't it?
It does. It acted well on the soft last time when it beat Starry Desert. I don't think it's up to this. I don't.
No, I didn't think that was much of a race. I thought that maybe you have a slightly false impression about that one. I don't like Dark Angels when it's out with Dark Angel Man. I don't like them when the going gets tough. I think the skittery bastards.
Love that. Racing Purse comments, John. The over 18 section. Went Racing Purse on its arse and Motorzed's on his last articles. You could write in and say, right, I'll do an over 18s spotlight section, like for day on a certain race meeting.
It should be over 18s anyway, shouldn't it, the post? Because, I mean, I was buying it that can't have a bet.
Yeah, exactly. It shouldn't be behind a paywall. So there you go. You would revive it on your own, being totally honest.
I still want John to do one of his red car write-ups again.
Oh, they're brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Back in the day, absolutely brilliant. He's just lost enthusiasm. If I can twist his arm this week.
There must be about 10 meetings left at Redcar this year. They're the only buggers racing at the end of October. And
I might do one for the big race there.
Oh,
yeah. John's, it's legendary. Absolutely. You've got to pay to read it because it's just that good. John thinks my selection Luther might not go in the ground. Wimbledon Hawkeye I've already highlighted. I love the Aiken form. We should follow the Aiken form, but that's a definite worry, the ground. John likes Law of Design. Coming to you, Andy.
I quite like Puppet Master. I mean, he had, how many did he have entered in this? He had 10 of the 18 5-day entries, Aiden.
Yeah.
He's won the race 7 times. I know he ain't won it since, 2019? And this thing absolutely pissed up at the Galway Festival. I don't think it's going to have any worry. This is my slow ground theory again. I don't think there's any problem on the slow ground. And if we've got doubts about all the others, apart from John's one, Law of Design, which you could have a pop out of the price, I think Puppet Master is probably the one I would want to be with. He'll stay, handles the ground, looks as though I thought they might run him in the Futurity at Doncaster, whatever that's called now. It's been the Racing Post, God knows what it's called. It was the Vertem, wasn't it? But you can't call it that anymore.
Just the Futurity for us, isn't it?
Yeah, just the Futurity. So I thought it might be the horse there. It just looks a bit of a, it might be, it looks as though he could probably go further, and I think that's what you'll need in this. You got 4 last time out winners. I think his form maybe doesn't match up to the others, but again, it's the one that O'Brien relies on. So I'll trust in Aidan.
Good stuff, mate. Me and John don't think that race is all that last time. Andy likes it, so we're going to knock it because it's one of them things that it's that kind of racing weekend where an horse can be 15, 20 pounds clear on form, but just run absolutely no sort of race.
Well, look how they finished in that Wonder Kid race. I mean,
absolutely.
Two furlongs out, they were literally all together, and then suddenly it looked like a 3-mile chase at Caldwell.
Yeah, it looks like the Betfair Chase at Haydock. I mean,
it was strung out like washing. I mean, I think Richard Hoyles in comms said they were 20 lengths clear. The third was 20 lengths back.
Yeah, it can be brutal. It's not necessarily to go to bed with form, so to speak, but more able to handle the conditions. Nick David.
And now I'll be waiting for the next.
The next one. Okay, we'll come on to it. The 225 is, of course, the Cheveley Park. Nick, I'm going to give you the dance floor here because obviously you like this.
He's been champion at the bit, hasn't he, for this?
Yeah. You've got your tight trousers on. You've got your waistcoat on. Tight shirt. The music's going.
I like the French filly, Daylight. I thought, she didn't get the clearest of runs. Right? She wasn't beaten fast. She didn't get the clearest of runs. And I think the fact that they're going, and they've had this on their mind for a long time. If you watch the delightful Pauline Chibub, at the end of Dowie in her interview, she's a nice piece of work, that Pauline, by the way. This has been the plan.
There'll be a racing creeps in a minute.
She's
only 3/4 length behind Whistle Jacket. I know Babouche has beaten Whistle Jacket, but that was Whistle Jacket on Good to Firm and not Whistle Jacket on Easier Ground,
Correct.
which is a much better horse on.
Yep.
I think Lake Victoria won the Moyglare because I think they went mid to all through the race. I think they set it up for us. She outstayed them in the end. That was my reading of the Moyglare. And I think to take the top pair on with Daylight and to do the double with Whistle Jacket, related double. Those are my 2 bets for those 2 races.
Well, listen, it's a klaxon, so to speak, because you're right. This is a ridiculous price. 15 to 2. I am astonished in the price. Astonished. You've got a filly that possibly should have maybe been upsides Whistle Jacket given the run she had at Deauville. She was drawn on the wing. She had to track across. She couldn't get a run. She finally got a run and really ran through the line strong. You know that the ground's not an issue. How the hell is she sort of 7-1? It's just incredible. At the front 2 in the market, you've got Babouche, like you've just highlighted, Nick, beat Whistle Jacket, and Whistle Jacket is not a fast ground horse. I think Whistle Jacket is a soft ground horse, and it's proven to be so. Lake Victoria drops from 7 to 6. That's not a positive. That's far from a positive. She's quite lengthy. There's a bit of length to her. She's by Frankel. This is not a quick filly. She's not a 6 furlong filly. You've got Daylight here, third in. I don't want to say it's like one of the biggest ricks I've seen. Daylight at this price is incredible. However, there is another one as well I think I'd cover, and it's the other French filly, Rayevka. She was immensely impressive last time, and I know it's a massive step up, but seriously, this filly, you look at her action, it's like piston, like proper soft ground. She goes handy. She's a 6 furlong filly for now. Again, another overpriced filly in terms of how the race is formed. The front 2 in the market are ridiculous at these sort of prices. You've got Babouche that you don't know how that's going to go on the ground. And certainly the form is overrated for me. Beat Camille Passaro the time before, half a length. Well, that's not good enough form to win this. So, like you said, Whistle Jacket, good to firm. Lake Victoria, plenty of length. to her. She's not a 6 furlong filly. I wouldn't have run her here. I'd have probably gone Boosack or something. But that's what they're doing. Daylight for me and a small saver, Rayevka. I think, Nick, we've nailed it. John?
I can't argue with any of that. I'd be all over Daylight, especially in view of the Lions record over the last 5 years in this country. North from 19. Anybody feeling brave?
I think the top two, I'm licking my lips at 36%, 7-4, 9-4 late Victoria.
It's a better weight, this, isn't it?
67% the top of the market, taking them on. Lovely jubbly. So I think Daylight gets in the lucky for sure. Andy?
Is there a camera in my office? Because someone's been looking over my shoulder. But the two French horses, this sort of goes back to sort of, I don't know, was it sort of Nick Morden pointed this out back in the dim and distant, that, we used to really underrate the form, didn't we? Certainly over the jumps. I mean, I can think back to when Francois Dumas used to bring horses over first time, and we're like, well, who's this geezer? Like 25-1 goes and wins the King George or something. We're not quite in that territory here, because we obviously see a lot more French racing these days, etc., etc. But these two are way overpriced. I can't believe that Sevens is still going to be there. I mean, you said it all, and John touched on another point I was going to make about Geo Lions. Since September 2019, he's 0 from 23 with his runners in Britain. The last 8 favourites he's had have all been beaten. 100-30, 9-2, 9-4, 9-2, 5-2, 13-8, 15-8, 11-4, all stuff.
The juice doesn't travel, Andy.
Yeah, probably not. Lake Victoria, Lake Victoria, all the forms at 7 furlongs, so that's not a positive at all. Just think the two French horses you've got to have a pop at. I mean, what are they now? I can see sevens. There's sevens with Denise, Sky Bet, Chris Paul's Mob, and Boyle Sports. If you can get on with any of them, good luck. But the 14s is only with Denise. But you can probably get a bit of 12 somewhere in a few places, and even that's too big.
What I think with the underrating is, don't forget the French have had a few years in doldrums with that. It seemed to take ages to get over that virus in Chantilly, and they've had a sort of dodgy for a few years with travelling. I expect this year it seemed quite a bit of an upturn, and I expect them to do well with the breeders as well, because they historically used to do very well.
Remember, they actually, I mean, there must be, I mean, this might be a small pointer, but Rayevka, they actually supplemented her for this.
There you go. Yeah, I didn't know that.
They have the cast as well.
Yeah.
Definitely didn't know that, because I was just watching her videos. She's a really likeable filly. She was keen on debut, but then she settled a lot better last time when allowed to bowl along on the front end. And I think that's what we'll do. That could be very dangerous Saturday in a race like this, where everyone's playing jockeys and trying to race positions, so to speak. Yeah. So I think she's dangerous at that price. Very keen on the two French. Daylight Sec certainly makes the lucky, I think. Right, we'll move on to 3 o'clock. It's the Middle Park. Whistle Jacket is a heavily backed favourite. Obviously, Whistle Jacket's got his ground. He's a set 2-year-old. I don't think he's going to make a 3-year-old. John, would you agree with that?
Unlike a lot of sprinting juveniles, he does have a tad of length about him, but I couldn't see him improving much on what we've seen.
Right.
I can see him a bit like River Tiber. He's next year River Tiber, the one that nobody wants to turn up.
At parties. You can't make Bob Ogden's party.
There he is. So I think anything you're going to get out of him, you're going to get it this year. So if he's going to win one of these, it'll be this.
Pretty soon. I mean, I think Ides of March, I think the ground's gone against that. I genuinely think so, because I think he's a top of the ground horse. Aidan, who loves to get speed into his interviews, said this horse is all about speed. With Ryan taking the Whistle Jacket ride as well, I think that, and I know he doesn't always get it right, does Ryan, but I think he's right here, because Whistle Jacket will thrive under these conditions more than Ides of March, and I think it's a worthy favourite, but no value. Nick Davis.
Yeah, as I said, I'm going to probably do a related double with Daylight. If you can get 13-2 and evens, that's 15 points back.
The one thing I'd say, intrusively in the place markets might be interested by territories. Indisatchel Mare, not had the ground yet, raced on like top of the ground most of his career. It's one of them. when we talk about form and we say, yeah, well, that's rated, £18 behind the favourite, it might not matter too much under conditions when maybe 4 or 5 of these won't do a yard in it. Well, this will. By territories in Satchel, that's like soft ground, soft ground, soft ground, soft ground. So again, the place market's 40-1, I think, in the win, means that if you play the place markets on the exchange, you might get some generous odds in the 3 places with that picking up the pieces late in the day. Andy?
Sort of headed towards Whistle Jacket without any real compunction to play. There's one horse I do like in here, the Unbeaten Defence Minister.
Yep.
But again, you don't really know about the ground. I mean, 9 of the 10 last runnings, 9 have been won by last time out winners from 37 qualifiers. The last Lion was the exception to that, if you want to know. All 10 have won over 6 furlongs. We've had a few shocks in this race. You had a 22-1 and 25-1, but favourites have generally done all right. So you fancy Whistle Jacket. All the last 10 winners have run within the last 58 days. And this was a race that Charlie Appleby trained his first British Group 1 winner in, Charming Thought, back in 2014. If you want a bit of trivia.
Bingo.
I like Defence Minister as a horse. Whether he's quite good enough for this is another matter. I fancied him for a race. He was in a race last weekend, wasn't he? And he got pulled out. If I'm going to back, as I am going to do, back Daylight and Rayevka, I will certainly follow Nick in with a double on Whistle Jacket and hope to get some cash running onto him.
Good stuff. I like it, chaps. Moving on then to our finale before any other business, and we'll try and come up with a lucky 15. The 340, the Cambridgeshire. This song is for you, for the Irish, the old Irish with the carrots. 6-1, 5 at the moment for Emmett Mullins and Colin Keane. Andy, before we come to us three, you'll have done this race with a tooth comb, I'm pretty certain. So Andy.
Right, well, let's give you some stats first. That'll keep Mark Holder happy, won't it?
It will. Yes, he can't have them, can he? Can't have them.
What a load of shit that article was. I mean, that was like, I'm right, you're wrong. That's just bollocks.
He's an has-been.
Let's be fair about this. There are many ways to skin a cat, and there are many ways that we have proved amongst the bar stewards, there are many ways to, because we all bring something very different to the table.
Yes.
And it's been successful. I think you can see that in both in Early Bird and Edge, etc., and all the other stuff we put out. So to write that, it just was like, well, the best thing the Post could have done was stuck it next to the signpost.
Yeah, with all the other shit they've got in articles.
We'll move on. So 8 of the last 10 have been drawn 21 plus. We discussed the draw, something to watch as you go along, but the way things have gone, I wouldn't put anything off the, maybe either rail. Down the middle, I wouldn't be too keen. We've not had many older winners. 10 out of the last 10 winners have been 3 and 6. They've all run within the last 49 days. In fact, anything that's had 50 plus days off has been 0 from 50, including 4 of them that have been 8-1 or less. So it might be worth if you can find those, crossing those off. 9 out of the last 10 winners finished in the first 6, which is probably something you want to do. For all, it's been a race where we have had some shocks. We had a 50-1, 2 40-1s, a 25 in the 20s. 5 of the last 10 started at 14, so front end of the market. Mr. Gosden, Mr. Tipping Point, has a very good record in this, as we've seen. Lord North, I think, was probably his most memorable runner. And I think that, to cut a long story short, that's where I'm going with Roy de France. I think he's nicely drawn. I like the run last time out. All Sheen is booked. 3-year-old. You can honestly see this horse being the proverbial group horse in a handicap, can't you? You've obviously got the Emmett Mullins horse, This Song Is For You, floating around there. He's drawn a bit down the middle, which might be a slight negative. I looked through some of the others. Silver Sword's been well back, but I didn't really fancy him. I think he's been off a bit too long. I quite like the Minutier horse, Timey's Son, could give that a chance. There's a few others that have been knocking around here, and I'm pretty sure I know where Nick's going with Mr. King, who ran very, very well at Ayr last time out. I think you could probably mark that run up, and I certainly wouldn't write him off. He would be on my short list along with Roy de France at the moment.
Good stuff, Andy. Just a question to you then, before I come on to Nick. Why is Murphy on and Shoemark not?
Don't know.
The producers just chimed in. He's got flu. Shoemark.
He had one ride. It was today at Newmarket, and Ryan Moore took the ride. So
That's
he
it.
must be,
Yeah.
yeah. So whether he's not been, he is actually jocked up in the race, Kieran. Yeah, Navaggio for James Horton.
Has Nielsen jettisoned him then and said,
Well,
"You're a twat"?
must be something to do with that.
He is temperamental.
Yeah, if you look at Roy de France's form, if it wasn't for the gamble on the Mullins thing, and obviously everybody being very, very careful, I think this Roy de France would be favourite, and I'd certainly make it favourite, bar the obvious Mullins connotations.
Sure, good stuff. Right, Nick, coming to you because I know that this is a race you.
I respect Roy de France, but the only trouble is that I think it's 8 out of the last 11 winners had run at 10 furlongs, had form at 10 9 and 10 furlongs. And it's the fact it's his first time at the trip, this trip and first time on the going. You just don't know. Reading seems to suggest he'll go on it, but you never know. Now, the Irish, I'm a great fan of the Irish, but overstaying ones. I mean, they've had a few come over and been really fancied. They had the favourite in the Lincoln this year. They had a couple of fancied horses in the Hunt Cup. I think the only one outside has been Take Heart, who won at 10 furlongs at Goodwood Festival. I wouldn't it's fashionable the Irish come over and wear anything here. They haven't at sprint and mile ones this season at all. They've been absent from the winner's circle. So I think they're going to be overbet. I'm not as confident on Mr. King on really soft ground. I think good to soft it might be thing. But I'm going to go with the other one, his other runner at a big price, Paddy the Squire. He's got form over longer, and he's twice the price of Theory of Everything, who's about 16, 20 to 1. This one's 40 to 1. He's won over heavy. He's been second, third this year over 10 furlongs. And I think if it comes to heavy, he's going to be bang there at a big price. Apart from that, I wouldn't be surprised if Poneros got a run down the bottom. I think something will come out by tomorrow. Is it tomorrow morning they're going to come out?
11, I believe.
Tomorrow by 11. Godwinson, he had a very good run in the Spring Cup, and then he had a couple of poor runs and got it together last time. I don't know how strong that form is. There's a few here, but it's just that on this ground, and with the Cambridgeshire having a record of you need to stay further, that's going to put me off quite a few milers here.
Yeah.
So I'm going to have a couple of quid on Paddy the Squire at 40s as well.
Good stuff, mate. So Paddy the Squire for Nick, Run of France for Andy. I am an O'Mara fan. I know it goes against stats, but I'm struggling to get away from Beau Pedro.
Very, very well handicapped. It's just the price.
Yeah, 93, he's up to 96, obviously. So he's £3 well in. This is his conditions. He should get a nice trip. I think Danny Tudhope's chose him, which I think says a lot because I do like another O'Mara runner in Benatot. I know Benatot was beaten by Theory of Everything at Ascot, but I think that's key form. Theory of Everything, a while, a feet a lane. I like this key form. Nick does columns all summer on the older handicaps, and he follows form lines. And I think this is a good form line. I'm sure a while will be on people's sort of list for the Balmoral. You look at Benatot, and I thought it was a perfectly good race. He was unlucky at York because he was shuffled back early, ran a blinder, won easily at Windsor the time before that. I think he's underrated at 33s. Beau Pedro, for me, rather than Theory of Everything, who I thought was sacrificed by winning at Ascot and getting the penalty, I think Beau Pedro is really interesting off that mark of 93. I think he's got to go well. Everything just looks tick to me. So that's where I'm at. And O'Mara, he likes these big handicaps. He's good at them. John?
I think everybody's been fleecing their fucking notes, eh? I've got Beau Pedro as well in. Poneros has potential off this mark, especially dropping back in trip. He's been so keen, not stayed 12 the last 3, which has preserved his mark. We've got Paddy the Squire interesting at long odds. Ought to be suited to how this is run. Looks to have been laid out for it. Kurdo looked a good type for this, but the Well Yard's been in shocking form since mid-August. And the one I've sort of come down on side with is Navaggio of James Horton. He's come down the ratings since he's running on third in the Lincoln. and that's been due to the lack of pace in his races, getting him going keen. He didn't appear to like the all-weather on his one appearance at Newcastle, and I thought the last run after 10 weeks off was a nice paper opener to tee him up for this. 100 to 1, too big. Well handicapped horse. One run at 9 furlongs, won.
Oh, look, this is it. We all love big prices. To be honest, I like all the cases here, so and we're talking prices here, so
Perm exactas,
Yeah.
lads.
yeah, absolutely. Look at our best cases and think, right, do we just perm a few, like you say, exactas and forecasters? Can be rewarding, that kind of bet, as Nick has proved throughout time. Right, before we come to our Lucky 15, any other business for the weekend?
Yes, 4:15 on Saturday. Believe it or not. Fillies Maiden. The one I like. I know, it's quite depressing, isn't it, really? Gets even worse. It's Ed Dunlop.
Ah,
Zara Kell. Simply because I thought they shaped all right on debut. Got left many lengths at Haydock, but kept on right nice. Ploughing through the... Well, it was officially good to soft, but I think this one will cope lovely with bad ground. Got a frog sire there, Zarak. That pedigree stands out like a naked Charles de Gaulle turning up at a Tupperware party with a French flag round his neck.
quality. Okay. Anything else, John?
No, that's it.
No. Just Zara. That's enough for you to go out. Zarakel, a naked Charles de Gaulle there for you race fans to Google what Charles de Gaulle looked like, and then you can view him naked in your own warped mind. Andy Richmond.
If the ground isn't too bad by the time we get to the end of Newmarket, then Yorkshire in the 4:45 over 7 furlongs got a very, very poor ride / poor run last time out from the Ed Bethel horse. So I think he's probably one I'd like to be with if he goes on the ground. And there's one in the last race at Haydock, a horse called Mayal, who's won his last 2 races at Haydock and Carlisle. Won't worry if it gets a bit softer. If anybody needs a ground pointer, it's pissing down here in the northwest, so it'll probably be a lot soup at Haydock. But Mayal, think he's still got a few pounds in hand. So those 2 would be my other 2 for the weekend.
Good stuff, mate. Like it. Nick?
Nothing at present.
Nothing from me, because you need to pay for Edge and Early Bird, you tight bastards. So on to our Lucky 15. I love that. I have to laugh at my own stuff. No one else does.
We do, Lee.
Yeah.
We laugh.
Yeah, right, here we go. We need a Lucky 15 for the lads and lasses that are punting this weekend. So obviously, Daylight goes in there. That's a nap. That goes in the 2:25 on Saturday. I'm going to put Johns in, Seaplane of Paul Coles on the Friday. That goes in your Lucky. So it's Seaplane, Daylight. So we've 2 more to put in.
Or can we put Ice Max tomorrow?
Okay, we'll go Ice Max of Carl Burks in the...
It's in the last telly box race tomorrow.
Last tally box race, Newmarket Friday. And we'll have Whistle Jacket as the banker, Nick, yeah?
Yeah.
So we've got Whistle Jacket as the banker. We've got Daylight in the 2:25 Saturday. We've got John's Seaplane. I just get a vision of tattoo. You played, man. And Ice Max in the 3:35 tomorrow.
Yeah.
So there you go, chaps. That's your Lucky. That's the Bastard's Lucky for the weekend. We hope you've enjoyed the show. We have. It's been a job to do because it's difficult conditions, but we hope to provide you with sovereigns this weekend and plenty of winners. That's all from me, John, Andy, and Nick. Bye for now.